Hello, this is Mike, and welcome to BitFixer. This is a quick assembly video for the PETdisk MAX version 2. This is a redesign of the original PETdisk MAX, and this one has an ESP32 module on it instead of an Atmel ATmega 1284, because those are out of stock everywhere. So let's go ahead and put this together. It's almost the same as the old one, but let's go over what we have here. Here's the main board. It has the ESP32 module, SD card slot, and we have this is the interface, or the extender board for the IEEE 488 interface on the PET, so you can connect other devices and pass through. This is a edge connector to go to the IEEE port, a pin header that's used for programming and for powering the PETdisk MAX, and we have a clip lead for powering the device also. Alright, we'll start with the main board here and the edge connector. So you're going to take your board, the edge connector goes on the back of the board, and this is the back, the side with no parts is the back. So we go ahead and connect it like so. I'll turn my fan on here. Sorry about the noise. Go ahead and one corner pins here, a little bit of solder, hold in place. And what I like to do is just put this flat to with respect to the surface here, and just heat it up a little bit and make sure this is flush with the connector. And that looks good. Do the other corner and repeat that. And again, just melt that solder again. Make sure everything is nice and flat. Okay. I'm just going to put a little bit of solder on these pins. We're going to be going over it again, so we don't have to do it fully the first time. Okay, so that part's done, and then next we are going to connect this pass-through connector. And the way we do that is we're going to start by taking these pins here. We're going to just slightly bend each of these in toward the center of the two rows. So I like to do that with a thumb is fine. A thumbnail, pretty easy to do. Just bend it a little bit. Alright, and you're going to go ahead and connect this one. Now, one thing to note is that the side with the writing, there's going to be a side with writing on it. That's going to be on the bottom. And I should say also, if you hold it so that the edge connector is facing you, and then you have the interface card like this. The side that there's going to be three pads and then a notch. That's going to be on the left, so it's on this side of the board. And then you're going to go ahead and slide that in. You might have to unbend these a bit to fit it in. Bent these a bit too much, but generally you just slide that in there until it's all the way through all the pins. This one is bent. This one is bent a bit too much as well. Okay, so if you're looking at it, it should look like this. This notch with the 3 is on the left, and the connector is facing me. So, all right, next we're going to solder the extension board on. What I like to do is, you can do it as you like, but I like to have it face toward me and then prop the board up slightly on something, just so I have a better angle on the pins coming out. And let's clean this a little. And similar to before, I'm just going to do a little bit of solder on one of these pins here, and then I'm going to put this flat on the surface, heat up that pin again, and then just kind of push the board into position so that it is now perpendicular, facing straight up, and it's a little bent a little too much here. Okay, that looks good. It's about, well, a little bit more this way. Okay, so that's, yeah, that looks about right. And then I'll do it again on this side on the corner. Just a little bit of solder on there so they stick together. And I will just double check that this side is nice and straight. Okay, that looks right. Okay, and so now we can just do all the pins. And you want to make sure that you're getting a good connection both between the pin and the pad on the extension, and from the pin to the main board, the main PETdisk MAX board as well. So don't be afraid to use a decent amount of solder there, and just make a good connection. Okay, so here we go. Just make sure that you are getting a good connection between both of the points here, between the interface board and the pin and the pad on the main board. All right, so that's that for the interface, the extender board. Just double check the connections, make sure everything looks good, and then we can move on to this. Okay, this is the last part of the assembly. We just take this 1x8 socket here, and we are going to put it on the back of the board, like so. So it should be coming out on the side with the text. And then I'm going to go ahead and solder that on. Oops. And I think the easiest way to do this is just set it in there and tack it down with one pin, and melt the solder on the pin again and readjust so it's flat against the back of the board. So just carefully get this one pin going. That's good. And then just like that, straighten it out. And that looks good. Okay. Let's prop this up so I can get a better view of it here. Okay, and that is it for the assembly. We just have the connector main board here, and the extension, and the 8-pin socket. Yep. So next we will hook this up into a PET and check out some of the basic functions of it. So let's go ahead and connect up the PETdisk MAX to a PET. This is the PET 8032, and we are going to connect it to the IEEE 488 port, which if we look at the back of the machine here, this is the port closer to the power plug side. So if you're looking at the PET from the front, it's the one on the left side. So I'll go ahead and plug this in. Right. It just sits there. It doesn't stick out very far. It sticks out a few millimeters, and then you have your pass-through. So if you want to connect another disk drive or other IEEE device like a printer, you can do that there. And next is connecting up the power to the PET disk. With the unit, you're going to get a clip lead, much like this. And we're going to connect this to a source of 5 volts inside the PET's motherboard. I find that the easiest place to do that is on one of these 6520 chips. Now these are the position is going to vary depending on the PET board that you have, but almost all the time they are located near the back of the PET board, PET motherboard, and you will see the chip. Hopefully you'll see the chip labeled there. At least on this 8032 it's in UB16, and we want pin 20, and that's going to be the same on any 6520. And pin 20 is easy to find. Pin 1 is here. You look for the notch, and pin 1 is directly to the left of the notch, and then pin 20 is just this pin all the way at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and clip onto that. With this type of clip lead, it is generally easiest to approach it from the outside here. Oops, sorry to block the view there, but there we go. So let's clip that on, pin 20, and that's solidly on there. And then you take the other end, this pin here, and you're going to connect it to the spot on the far right of the socket on the PET disk here. That is the one for 5 volts. So make sure it's this one on the right hand side when you're looking at it from the inside of the PET. Oops, sorry about the finger. And yeah, that's about it. So it's connected up, and now we will power up the PET disk, the PET and the PET disk, and we'll see what to do next. When you turn the PET on, you'll see the light blink on the PETdisk MAX, and then it will go solid. Once it's solid, that means that it's initialized and ready to go. And the operation is fairly simple. On Basic 4, you can use directory or catalog. On Basic 2, there's also the other way of getting a directory, load $. By default, the PETdisk MAX is on device 8, but you can change that with a configuration file on the SD card. I will show you how to do that in a moment. And it supports D64 disk images and regular program files. The program files on the SD card can have a .prg extension, or they can have no extension at all. There's other SD card devices for the PET that use files without an extension, so this one supports both .prg or no extension at all. They will both show up as PRG files in your directory here. If you want to change, it also supports subdirectories. I have my own syntax for changing directories, which is basically as if you're doing a directory, load $, and then directory name, and you can list, and that shows you everything in here. It also, if you're using the DOS wedge, which is also used on some other SD card devices, you can use the DOS wedge commands to change directory. That is supported on here. And you can load your programs. The deload, regular load or deload works. So actually don't remember the deload syntax that right now, so I'm just going to load. Let's load something here. I'll load BART, which is this one's pretty funny. This is the Bay Area Rapid Transit, which is the public transit in this area, and they have a whole program for it on the PET. It's a little outdated. This is probably circa early 80s, so there's some more stations now, but anyhow, that's the PETdisk MAX. You can also save, of course, and let me just show you how to I'll show you how to do the Wi-Fi functionality on the PETdisk MAX as well. Configuration of your PET disk, including changing device numbers or adding a network drive. You edit a file called PETdisk.cfg and put it on the root directory of the SD card. So right now I just have the SD card itself is SD0 here, and that is mapped to device number 8. I'm going to add a network drive here at a location I've already set up. So this is basically a test area I have with a few program files and some D64 images. You need a web server with PHP enabled in order to start up your own network drive if you want to host your own. And then to connect to the internet, you need to set up your SSID and password. And then you just save this file in the root directory of your SD card and you start it up, and you will be connected to whatever network drives you set up here. Alright, let's start it up again. I have the new configuration in here, and so we should be pointing to our network drive on device 9. And again, just wait a few seconds for the blinking light to go solid on the PET disk before it's ready. And now you see I can use the basic4 directory on unit 9 here, and we have a listing for some files that are hosted on the web server. Let's try loading up, what's something, I think Adventureland. Let's try that. There we go. So there you go. We've loaded Adventureland from our from over the network. So you just need a web server that has PHP enabled, and you just put the petdisk.php file in the directory where you want to host from, and you can put some program files or D64 images there as well. So just another quick thing about how to change between directories. If I have the directory open and I want to go into open one of these D64 files or directories, it's the same syntax. One way you can do it is my own syntax here, which is load $:, and we'll go into this one. This is an Infocom game here. Okay, any list, and you can see this is the contents of the D64. If you want to go back, it's basically sort of a DOS-like syntax. $:, will go back one level. And in addition to that, you can also use the DOS wedge change directory commands. So I load up the DOS wedge. Then I can change directory. So first let's load the regular directory, and let me see what the command is here. Okay, so the DOS wedge version is cd:" games, right? Yes. Okay. Oh yeah. So when you change directory using the DOS wedge, it doesn't actually load the directory automatically like the $sign version. So we just have to do a directory, and now we're inside our games. And then if you want to go back, it is, oh yeah, it uses the back character here, the back arrow, and then the directory again. So that's supported on here, at least the directory commands for the DOS wedge. So that's about it for now for the PETdisk MAX v2. This is going to be available on my website, bitfixer.com. The old version, the PETdisk MAX v1, due to lack of availability of the Atmel microcontroller here, this is going to be discontinued now. And we have the PETdisk MAX v2, which does all the same stuff, and hopefully with some firmware updates we'll have some additional features as well to take advantage of the ESP32 on here. And just thought you might find it entertaining. Here's the prototype version of the PETdisk MAX v2. We've got ESP32 development board here, and a bunch of wires going around on the breadboard and connector. So yeah, it's condensed down to this now. So thank you for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and check out some other videos on the channel. See you next time.